live session of the massive open online course on science, technology, and society. As you know, that this is a 30-hour course spanning over 3 months. 12 weeks. Uh, and this is an online based course which deals with the interrelationship between technology and science on the one hand and society on the other. And we are in the 7th or 8th week of this course right now. And we are going to complete another 4 or 5 weeks in a month or so. And if you look at the way we have spanned out, we have covered the topics. We have started with the thematic preliminaries, the conceptual understanding of the terms like technology, science, society, and so on. When I say technology, technology is the medium through which human beings have been interacting with nature. When I say nature, it includes both natural as well as social phenomena. Thereby, I intend to widen or broaden the scope and ambit of nature. When I say technology is the medium through which human beings have been interacting with nature, I take the cue from political economy, historical sociology, philosophical anthropology, and so on. The perspective is very important. The perspective refers to a set of symbols which human beings have been selecting from all potentially observable aspects of nature. When I say nature, I reiterate, I tend to include both natural as well as social phenomena. It's above all, a perspective is above all a viewpoint that helps us in selecting, organizing our perceptions, and guiding our actions. In this sense, I'm using the term a perspective within quote. And when I say science, science may be an inquiry, science may be a method, an institution, an ideology, and so on. When I say science is an inquiry, science is an inquiry into the nature and limits of a particular knowledge. When I say nature of a particular knowledge, I mean the subject matter of that particular knowledge, scope and ambit of that particular knowledge. When I say limits of a particular knowledge, by limits, I do not mean limitations. By limits, I mean under what limiting conditions science is practiced or pursued. That's extremely important. Even a set theory has limits. A set theory is a philosophical branch of mathematical logic. Right? In mathematics also we use limits. Right? That's why I reiterate, I repeat that by limits, I do not tend to refer to limitations. Rather, I tend to refer to under what limiting conditions science is practiced or pursued. And in this sense, science is an inquiry, science is a method that deploys at least two methods. One is inductivism and the other hypothesism. As you know, inductivism is rooted in empiricism and empiricism is rooted in experience. That's why, according to inductivists or empiricists, science begins with observations, remains at the level of observations, and ends with observations. On the contrary, hypothesists, hypothesism is grounded in rationalism, and rationalism is based on reasoning capacity, critical thinking. When inductivists or empiricists suggested that science begins with observations, remains at the level of observations, and ends with observations, hypothesists or rationalists, they suggest that no, science begins only when we go beyond observations. That's how science becomes trans-observational in nature. Inductivists or empiricists, they suggest that no, seeing is believing. What I see, I must believe in that. What I cannot see, I must not believe in that. But rationalists delve into the deeper entities of each phenomenon by saying that, for example, this place is full of electron and proton, but to a naked eye, we cannot view them. It doesn't imply that they do not exist. They are also real phenomena. Inductivists, they suggest that seeing is believing. If you can see, then you must believe in that. If you cannot see, then you must not believe in that. That's why what you cannot see, they are unreal phenomena. They are not real phenomena. Hypothesists suggest that, or rationalists suggest that, even if you are not able to see that, you must go to the deeper entities because they are also real phenomena. That's why hypothesists are alternatively known as realists, or rationalists are known as realists, whereas empiricists or inductivists are known as anti-realists. Right? If I say, when I say science is an institution, science deals with institutionalization of scientific knowledge. Look at the way various institutions were established to promote the spirit of science, the cause of science, to build scientific temper, to build infrastructure, to build manpower, and so on. Okay. And when I say science is an ideology, science also is very much, science on its own cannot perhaps stand. It needs some kind of a foundation, a base, maybe economy, maybe military, maybe polity, maybe culture, maybe society as a whole, and so on. That's why it's extremely important to understand the significance of how science gets intertwined with ideology. For example, Nazi science. According to Hitler, science is produced by Jews are inferior. Perhaps he forgot that Einstein himself was a Jew. That's why science got intertwined with racism and so on. And it has dithering impact on our economy, our culture, our polity, our critical thinking, and so on. Okay, that's why science as a body of knowledge may appear to us as neutral, but science under certain economic and political conditions can never be neutral. That's extremely important. Okay, that's how we have tried to look at the thematic preliminaries of the relationship between science, technology, and society, and how they interact with each other. We have also discussed the linear model, interactionist model, and embedded model of the relationship between science, technology, and society. The linear model suggests that science leads to the development of technology, technology leads to the development of society, our economy, culture, polity. On the other hand, the interactionist model suggests that no, at the same time, obviously, science leads to the development of technology, technology leads to the development of our economy, culture, and polity. But at the same time, our economy, culture, and polity, they also influence our science and technology. Whereas the embedded model suggests that please don't consider these three forces of production as separate entities, as separate phenomena. Rather, please consider them as a part of our social formation. Technology and science, they are very much a part of our society, very much a part of our economy, culture, and polity. Okay, they are not neutral, they are not universal. they are not objective. Rather, it is the society that has made technology and science possible. Okay, that's the embedded model. Now, if I go back a little, when we discussed the inductivist model, inductivist method and the hypothesist method, or alternatively, I mean, empiricist method and the rationalist method of science, the famous Aristotelian question that what is the method of science elicited two rival answers from the 17th century to the 19th century. During these 300 years, empiricism and rationalism, or inductivism and hypothesism, they dominated the scene. In the 20th century, what we witnessed the emergence of positivism. We have made that transition from theological stage to metaphysical stage to positivistic or scientific stage. The theological stage suggests, or the theological stage believes in supernatural forces. If I say, who has created us? The proponents of theological stage suggested that no, we are created by gods and goddesses. The proponents of metaphysical stage, on the contrary, they suggested that no, we all are the creations of nature. Nature has created us. That's why the proponents of metaphysical stage, they started worshipping nature. They want a human being. They believed in the fact that human beings must contemplate on nature. Nature, we must worship nature like goddess, like God, like mother, and so on, because nature controls human action. Whereas the positivistic or scientific stage suggests that no, we not only contemplate on nature, but we also know how to control nature. There was a transition from faculty of contemplation to faculty of control. And in this sense, if you look at that, then, I mean, positivists, they were also influenced by Darwinian principle of natural selection, origin of species, and so on, biological evolution, and so on. Okay. The central tenets of positivism suggest that science, I mean, positivism suggests that, this indicates supremacy of science over non-sciences. Huh? No, science is distinct from all areas of human activity or creativity because it possesses a method unique to it. For example, the objective of religion and the objective of science may remain the same. The proponents of religion, the proponents of science, they may say that, they may claim that no, our objective is to arrive at the truth. But what differentiates religion from science is the method. Science attempts to deploy the method of experience and reason, empiricism and rationalism, whereas religion believes in speculation. Science doesn't believe in speculation, according to positivists. The second tenet suggests that there is only one method, single method, common to all sciences, irrespective of their subject matter, whether it is astronomy, physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, whatever you can say. That is called methodological monism. Monism means one, single. Okay. That whatever scientific discipline you say, science deploys only one method. Now, what is that one method, single method? Then positivists suggested that no, that the method of science is the method of induction. It is only through observation, only through experience that we tend to arrive at knowledge. Unlike rationalists. Rationalists suggested that no, we go ahead with science always starts with a hypothesis. Then we must test our hypothesis. If the hypothesis is tested wrong, then we must reject that hypothesis. If the hypothesis is tested right, then uh, uh, then we must accept that hypothesis. On the contrary, inductivists or empiricists and later on positivists, they suggested that you see, science always begins with observations. Observation leads to theory generation, but the converse is not. In other words, theory is observation dependent, whereas observations are theory independent. Observations do not depend on theory, according to positivists. There is a unilateral relationship between observation and theory. Observation leads to theory, but the converse is not. Theory doesn't lead to observation, according to positivists. Whereas rationalists suggested that you see there cannot be any presuppositionless observations. Whatever you observe, it must be backed by something. Otherwise, our observations would have been uniform. Our observations are also theory laden, according to rationalists, but for positivists, our observations are theory free. Okay. Then fact value dichotomy. If I say this is a table, this is a fact. If I say this table looks beautiful, then I add value to it. And science, as a rational, as a neutral enterprise, according to positivists, that science only believes in facts. Science doesn't believe in values. This is a table, this is a fact, science believes in this. But if I say it is this table looks beautiful, it may look beautiful to me, but not to you. Somebody may say that, no, it's okay. Somebody may say that, no, it looks ugly. Somebody may say, oh, it looks beautiful, but absolutely disorganized. I may say that, no, it looks beautiful and very organized, well organized. Right? But whatever we say, these are our own opinions, our own values, our the way we look at things. But science doesn't believe in this. Science just believes in facts, according to positivists. I mean, like this, we have discussed various tenets of positivism. Then we have discussed how observations presuppose theory, according to positivists, but not according to rationalists. For rationalists, each observation is theory led. We do not have presuppositionless observations. And then, when positivism dominated the scene in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, 70s, and so on, two philosophers of science, historians of science, sociologists of science, they carried the debate forward. One is Karl Popper and the other Thomas Kuhn. The debates between Popper and Kuhn are considered one of the most intellectually stimulating debates of the 20th century within philosophy of science, within history of science, within sociology of science, and so on. If you look at them, those debates, for Popper, what is the central question of philosophy? According to Popper, the central question of philosophy is the problem of cosmology. Now, what is that problem of cosmology? According to Popper, the problem of cosmology is the problem of understanding the world, including ourselves as part of the world. Because if we isolate ourselves from the world, if we dissociate ourselves from the world, then we will not be able to understand the world that we live in. Okay, that's why he was talking about context of discovery, context of justification, then the how science may not start with an observation, science may not start with a hypothesis or something, but science always starts with a problem. How to identify a problem? If there is no problem, there is no research. We always, in research, we always try to identify a problem. Right? Science believes in identifying relevant, meaningful problems. Once a problem has been identified, then Popper suggests that we must provide a tentative solution to that particular problem or hunch in the form of a hypothesis. Hypothesis, at least in the 20th century sense, is a tentative solution to a problem or hunch. The way rationalists suggested that no hypothesis must be tested right or wrong, one should not be diehard in proving or disproving her or his hypothesis. If one is diehard in proving her or his hypothesis, then it hinders the tradition of cumulative knowledge production. Okay. And rationalists suggested that if a hypothesis is tested, if your hypothesis is tested wrong, then it must be rejected. If your hypothesis has been tested right, then it must be accepted. What Popper argued that no, let's go beyond this kind of hypothesis testing or something. Let's falsify our hypothesis. Systematic falsification. That once a hypothesis is falsified, then it must be refuted. It must be rejected. And if your hypothesis is not falsified, then it must be kept permanently tentative. It must be corroborated. Because only under certain limiting conditions, circumstances, situations, contexts, our hypothesis has not been falsified. Because we have not yet attempted to falsify our hypothesis under all conditions. That's why it's extremely important to make sense of the systematic falsification. As positivists, they argued that the hallmark of scientific statements, all scientific statements, lies in their systematic verifiability. Popper said that no, you may keep on verifying things to suit your needs, to meet your needs, but it is always the systematic falsifiability that has become the hallmark of science. Had there been only verification, perhaps science would not have made the kind of progress that it has made till. It is always a part of interrogation. It is a part of falsification that science has made, for which science has made so much of progress. And when Kuhn came to the center stage, that you see, it is not simply about verification or falsification. It is all about consensus that you want to build. Because whatever science, I mean, the way Kuhn tried to reflect on the various stages of science that every major science passes through. At least two stages. One is pre-paradigmatic stage and the other paradigmatic stage. Within the paradigmatic stage, we practice normal science, norm-bound science, a puzzle-solving activity, day-to-day research, and so on. And while carrying out normal science, we encounter anomalies. Anomalies refer to unanticipated or unexpected occurrences or happenings and so on. And once we encounter anomalies, science enters the stage of crisis. And then we hunt for new paradigms. But till we, unless and until we reach a new paradigm, we always tend to practice the old paradigm. And we very often reach a new paradigm through revolutionary science. That's why if normal science is a tradition-bound activity, then revolutionary science is a tradition-shattering activity. Okay? We very often encounter normal science, but once in a century or so, we encounter revolutionary science. Okay, but whether we should move ahead or we move ahead with a paradigm or a new paradigm or whatever, it is very often based on the kind of consensus that generally the scientific community builds, according to Kuhn, at any given historical juncture. And then we have discussed how Feyerabend rejected all this kind of law and order philosophy of science by looking at how consistency condition and correspondence conditions are illegitimate to make sense of. And that's how he discussed against method outline of an anarchistic methodology, anarchistic theory of knowledge, and so on. And then after methods of science, we have discussed, thematic preliminaries, then methods of science. Then we have discussed ethos of science. Ethos of science refers to effectively toned complex of values and norms which are held to be binding on the man of science, according to Merton, right? On the practitioner of science. And universalism, communism, disinterestedness, and organized skepticism, they constitute the ethos of science or institutional imperatives of science. Then we have discussed inequalities in science through the works of Merton and Zuckerman. And then we have discussed the social, we have been discussing now the social setting of technology through the works of Donald McKenzie, UD Walkman, Langdon Winner, Donna Haraway, and so on. We have also discussed strong program in the sociology of science. And then we are going to discuss economic setting of technology, political setting of technology, military setting of technology. That's why I told you earlier that science as a body of knowledge may appear to us as neutral, but science under certain economic, cultural, political, military conditions can never be neutral. Okay, that's extremely important. When you look at these such phenomena, then we are going to discuss in the weeks to follow also the science and technology policies in India, starting from 1958 to 1983, then 2003, then 2013, and then 2019, and so on. And if you look at 1958 scientific policy resolution, it is a byproduct of the alliance between the scientific elite and political elite of the time, industrial elite of the time. The main objective was to build scientific temper. The main objective was to build scientific institutions, and the scientific elite that was the science was led by, especially, within the, if you look at the framing of formulation of the scientific policy resolution, you will find that Bhava took the lead in from science, Homi Bhabha, Nehru took the lead in the world of politics, and the Tatas took the lead in the case of industry. Okay. By the 60s, 70s, India also wanted to move away from science to technology, and as a consequence of which, the technology policy statement was outlined in 1983. India wanted to leapfrog from science to technology because technology was considered of having applicational aspects of science. Okay. There are different ways through which you can look at this. That if you look at the way we have emphasized on science, we have emphasized on technology and so on, there is a huge hiatus between building scientific temper in the country and building scientific institutions in the country. That one must understand. Then in the 21st century, India wanted to, we all wanted to integrate science and technology. That today's science is tomorrow's technology and vice versa. We must understand the relationship, the dialectical relationship between technology and science. Abdul Salam, a famous theoretical physicist from Pakistan, once said, he was a Nobel laureate, late 70s or so. He said, today's science is going to be tomorrow's technology and vice versa. That you just cannot say that science leads to technology, technology leads to society, I can give you certain examples where you will find that, in fact, technology has changed the direction of basic research. If you look at the invention of the steam engine, you will find that the steam engine was first invented, and then we could understand the laws of thermodynamics. Technology, in fact, changed the direction of basic research. Okay, that's extremely important. That's why we always say that people drawn, scholars drawn, students drawn from sociology of science, history of science, philosophy of science, that technology often predates modern science. And if you look at the 90s, early part of the 21st century and so on, you will find that India became signatory to the WTO, World Trade Organization, WTO agreements in 1995, as a consequence of which in 2005, India entered the product patent regime. I mean, earlier, Indian patents was only subject to processes. The 1970 Indian Patents Act was subject to only processes. In other words, one could arrive at the same product by using different processes. But as India became signatory to the WTO agreements in 1995, immediately after 10 years, from the 1st of January 2005, India entered the product patent regime. Now you don't have the luxury to go ahead with the same product by using different processes. That's why you will find the prices of medicines and seeds have increased by leaps and bounds since India entered the product patent regime. That's why the need of the hour was to innovate more. We cannot keep on copying the West for everything. Then we had to innovate. We had to innovate, we had to get our products patented and so on. That's why in 2013, that science and technology policy of 2003 was revised, and then the government was keen to include innovation, and the title of the policy was the science, technology, and innovation. And in 2019, 19 or 20, government also tried to revise it further. They said that the new science, technology, and innovation policy, which emphasized on the world of patenting and so on. That's why when you look at this kind of debate within science policies, technology policies, so on, it's always important to look at it from the ways through which our technology, our science, they interact with our economy, our culture, and polity. Okay, I'm sure you all are very bright students, learners. You will do well in the exam, but keep on attending the lectures regularly. Please don't miss any assignment, weekly assignment, and please don't skip the final examination. A question from Mr. Vishwaraju has come up, that how to prepare questionnaire to collect the information about the social aspects of science and technology education, a study of secondary schools. Vishwaraju also wants to interact with me separately. Vishwaraju, whenever you get time, you please contact me on my mobile number. My number is 99575 64137. You can write to me also on my email ID sambit@iitg.ac.in, and I'm sure if you see, I can also discuss this kind of questionnaire, but perhaps I need more input from your side. I mean, when you say social aspects of science and technology education in secondary schools, I need some kind of focused research questions, objectives of the study, to lay out some kind of a questionnaire or interview schedule. Okay, please get back to me if you have any problem. We have a very dedicated research team that tries to answer all your questions on a weekly basis. I'm sure all of you will do well in exams and in life. I wish you all the best. Thank you. ଏବେ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଭଲ କି ଶିଖିଲଣି ନା ନାଇଁ?